Oh, that's quite good, yeah. So whenever you're ready, Mark.
What, you started it? Oh, right, okay. Good evening, world. I was asked to think of a topic that was a bit different to the last couple of films that I've done, where I talked about things like humanism and secularism and things like that, and basically put my position together. To say how impressed I was at the international community for dealing with the Syrian crisis and the fantastic job that everyone's doing of absorbing the problem, and how it was only really through secular humanism that this is actually happening, because you only have to look really around the Middle East and what you find is basically everybody shutting the doors. Nobody's interested, they're not helping. And yet Europe is producing this pathway where people can come through to be free individuals who are treated with complete humility. And I am incredibly interested in this kind of thing and seeing more and more of it. I think that at the moment religion in Europe certainly is very benign. It's certainly comparatively benign, certainly to the United States, where religion is still an enormously powerful force. But over time, I think what's going to start happening is more and more erosion will take place from classical religious doctrines. Now, the important thing to say is that morality is the consequence of religion. I'm not going to say that that's not the case. I'm not going to say that it doesn't give people a moral compass, because it has done for a very long time. The trouble with it was that it's just not true. The material itself does not bear resemblance to anything we find in nature. The material is very, very difficult to justify. And so, although the Bible is full of 613 different laws, the famous Ten Commandments, and I always get them wrong, Christians do. They always choose the first 10, which were the verbal commandments that were made by Yahweh to Moses the very first time. But we are told in the Bible that the Ten Commandments were on two slabs. It was the information from Yahweh to Moses, and that the Bible would of course say it was in fact the Ten Commandments. And you don't see this until Exodus 34, at which point the actual Ten Commandments that are actually counted at that point are laughable, literally laughable. I'm talking on camera now, and I'm just not going to mince my words. I think that we're at a point now in the 21st century. We have the periodic table of the elements. We have the fundamental particle model of fundamental physics, which has just been dramatically improved by the existence of the Higgs boson, and now this standard particle model of nature is looking a lot more complete. And that needs to now go on the periodic table. I think that's where that should live. I think it's imperative that scientists do that going forward. That's one suggestion I would always make. Right now, we need the standard model of particle physics in a box near to the periodic table. And I think that's very important going forward in the future. Anyway, that's a sideline. But anyway, I was asked to sort of talk about other things. So I've talked about briefly the ideas of how I feel about the international effort, humanism, secularism. The fact that if one examines anything in the biblical text and many other things, we find there are no originals. There were no actual eyewitnesses to anything that was said. The material was written a hell of a long time ago, when we ended up with a series of stories that were common in certain areas, and they would come together, and eventually somebody would make some kind of a recording. But I think what we've learnt is that basically the Jesus Christ idea and many other myths similar to him in antiquity, and there have been many, there's something like 8 or 9. Basically, yeah. So anyway, so one of the some of the other things I was going to talk about was abiogenesis, because my theory, carbon entomorphology, I believe is basically one of the only theories that has ever come out that actually explains reality on reality's terms. It takes every aspect of our lives and gives it a very strong scientific, philosophical basis. And basically, I think I'm running low on time right now, so it's probably better if we say